Right, Natalie and Eva and Dave, we're going to do section 2 now, but before we do, Mum wants to add something to section 1, which she forgot.
I didn't forget. Dad just talked all over me and it was dismissed. Just part of the first part was what did your parents do? Well, my dad was training to be a plumber and his father was a plumber as well. My mum was a seamstress, and I think she told me that she used to sew parachutes for World War II, and she lived at number 4 Southern Street in Broughton. Manchester, yeah. My parents weren't strict. Well, my mum was a bit, but my dad was really easygoing and always ready to make me laugh, and he never came home in a bad mood. My mum, however, was very bad-tempered and would often, through gritted teeth, give me a smack, which was nice. My earliest memory was Janet being told to take me for a walk in the pram, and I must have been less than 2 years old, and I remember Janet ran all the way round the flats as fast as she could to get it so she could go back and play with her friends.
On that subject,
Yeah.
Can I just add that I was told my sister Suzette was told to take me for a ride in the pram, and she tipped me out and hurt me, and she got
In
told
the road,
off. In the
she
road.
went down the curb and he went straight out into the road, and a woman came to help pick him up and put him back in, and then went and told his dad, which got her into loads of trouble.
Yeah.
And one other thing, I don't know what this is linked to, a memory, well, it's not a memory, but I nearly drowned at Brighton when a wave took me right out. I went under the water and disappeared, and someone ran in and grabbed me and got me out. So I had to go home. I think my mum said on the train, I had to go home with a big coat on and nothing else. So that's that part. Right, part 2, section 2.
Right, the first question you got was, what was the first record that you owned, and did you have a record player in your room? Now the question, to me, there's 2 records I can remember, which was My Old Man's a Dustman by Lonnie Donegan, which everyone at that time knew it's a sort of funny song with good lyrics, but it wasn't poppy. And the other, the first proper record I remember buying was Hello Goodbye by the Beatles. I didn't have a record player in my room. I had nothing in my room except a bed. But we did have one downstairs. Elaine?
My first record, I think probably either I got pocket money and went and bought it myself, or someone else bought it for me. It was Pinky and Perky, which were 2 little pigs, singing Please Please Me by the Beatles. We did have a record player in the lounge, but years later I bought my own. Yeah.
Right,
So.
in childhood you asked what was the best holiday you went on. I didn't have many holidays, but I do remember strangely when I was about 9, before my father left, he decided he'd take the whole family in a dormobile, which is like an old-fashioned camper van. Remember, there's 7 children and 2 adults, and we drove to the north of Spain in this, and it must, goodness knows how we did it. I remember certain instances of it. My real big memory is I remember we stopped for petrol in northern Spain, and there was an orange tree next to the petrol pumps. I just couldn't believe seeing oranges grow on a tree, which in those days was, we didn't have all this experience that we do now. And so, yeah, I remember that was quite something. What about you, Elaine?
Well, we did caravan holidays, never went abroad. So the one that sticks in my mind is Leon Solent, which is just past Portsmouth. Where is it? What's that little island?
It's the Isle of Wight.
No, on
Gosport.
Gosport. It's you go to Gosport, and it's a little area there. And my dad used to know this woman that lived in Shirley in Croydon, and her husband, he was a dentist, had lots of money, and bought her a fisherman's cottage in Leon Solent. And every few years, my dad would go to paint it and do some plumbing and things like that. And she used to say, take your family down there as well. So, yeah, that's lovely memories because it was right on the beach. And my dad used to go and do a bit of fishing about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Did you catch any fish?
I did. I can still see him with his white bib and brace on the beach, and I walked over the shingle and was talking to him, and he said, here, hold on to this rod while I go and have a pee. I remember it. And as soon as he'd gone over the top towards the cottage, I got a knock.
A bite.
A bite. And I reeled it in and I was swinging it around, and then my dad came back and he couldn't believe it. I'd caught a dap, I think it was called, and he cooked it for my tea that night and I couldn't eat it. Talk about ungrateful. I couldn't eat it. Oh, it was horrible.
You asked what's a nice memory from childhood, and I don't have a lot of memories from my childhood, and strangely, the two good memories I'm talking about involve my father, who I didn't care for, as you know. But I remember my father, his brother, my Uncle Donald, who Natalie, knew, and my brother, we went up to the Norfolk Broads, and because Uncle Donald had a garage, he was able to take this Jaguar 3.8 car, and I loved cars at that time. And I remember we did 130 miles an hour in it going up there. And then we had a few days holiday on a boat. And when we took it back to the boatyard, Uncle Donald was pulling the boat back in and fell in the water, which he was cross about. But it was a nice memory going up there. And because my father and his brother always argued, but it was good time.
Well, I've not written anything down against that. I've gone straight on to the next one. I'll have to think about what was a nice memory from my childhood.
Get a grip.
Well, yeah, I know. I can't remember. Can't really remember. It just, I don't know.
Think of it for next time.
Well, I'm just thinking like summer holidays from school. It was always sunny, never rained in my memory. It was always lovely, and we had lots of playing out on the green in front of the houses, and just it was nice. My dad used to make me. He made me some stilts out of wood, and I got a second-hand bike which he painted up, and the back wheel wasn't quite round, so I used to go along like this with this bike. But yeah, those are all nice childhood memories. My mum coming, opening the front door. Come on, Elaine. Come on, get in. Tea's ready.
That first job. Well, my job CV is a paper round when I was about 12 or 13. So getting up to deliver papers. And then I almost sort of got promoted as to marker-upper. I marked up the papers. So you used to have to get there early before the other paper boys. Get the book out and then get the Daily Express for number 24 and the Times for number 26. So you could prepare the rounds for all the paper boys to put in their bag and go off and deliver. So I enjoyed that. It's a lovely time of the day, first thing. Then I got jobs on Saturdays in shoe shops, in K Shoes and Curtis, and also the supermarket Caters, where I worked on the fruit and veg stall. And eventually, after I left school, got a job in the bank because someone at the shoe shop knew someone in the bank. I liked all of those jobs. They were all good fun. Life wasn't very serious in those days.
Well, my first job actually was Smith's the chemist on Central Parade, and I used to get 50 pence for working all afternoon on a Saturday.
10 shillings.
It started off as 10 shillings because when I was working there, it went over to decimal coins, and I was petrified of using the till, I remember. So I used to spend most of my time tidying the stock room.
For years after that,
filling.
You'd go into a shop and someone would tell you what the price of it was. It was £1.30, and people would always say, "What's that in real money?" And it took years to get rid of £1, 2 and 6 or whatever that was. I can't remember.
Yeah. And then my first proper job after I left school was working for Holland and Son Solicitors. It was right opposite, it was Berkeley Road, and it was right opposite the Fairfield Halls.
Croydon.
And in Croydon, and the law courts. And sometimes I used to have to type things up and take it, I was only 16, take it across to the law courts and deliver it to a solicitor or somebody over there, which was quite exciting. Used to go in there and see all these bad people you recognise from New Addington in court for the day.
One of the things I remember you said about your first record and everything, I remember telling Natalie about this. When you used to buy a record, you'd go into a shop in the high street and you'd go up to the counter and say, "Hello, can I hear I Want to Hold Your Hand by the Beatles?" And they'd get the record out, put a record player at the till, and then you'd go into a booth, a little booth in the shop, and then they'd play it. So it was all closed up, the door was shut, so you could hear it, and hopefully they'd want you to go out and buy it. So that's something you don't really get these days.
Ridiculous, isn't it? My first job, Holland and Son, I used to get paid £7 a week, which was, it was great, because my bus fares for the week, I think, were £1, or they might have been £2, and I used to give my mum £2, and then the rest was mine to spend. And in the first month, I bought myself a leather coat, loads of clothes and shoes, and it was wonderful having all that money. I went temping, which is where you go to an agent's, and this is for Eva's benefit. You go to an agent and they say, "What do you do?" And I say, "I can type, I can use the switchboard, I can do this, do that." And they'll look up and they'll go, "Well, we've got a job, and someone needs a typist in this office or that office, and it's for a week while someone's off." So then you go and work in this. And I got a temping job in Alders of Croydon, which was...
Well, it's like that place. What's it called in Falmouth?
Place.
Falmouth.
In Falmouth? What, over there?
Yeah, there's Tragos.
Tragos. Yeah, it was much bigger than Tragos though, but it was a department store. Natalie will probably remember it. I loved working there. It was really good fun. The worst job, I think, was I had to go and work in Red Hill in a company called Brewing Dolphin. They were stockbrokers, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Entering all these things onto the computer, and I thought someone's going to find out soon that everything's cocked up. I've made a mistake, but I didn't do it for long. That was a temping job as well. But so what about you?
My best job was at Sun Life in London, and I got to travel all over the UK recruiting brokers. It doesn't really matter, but we had lots of autonomy, well paid, had a BMW, I loved it. My worst job was Lloyd's. After we came back from Wiltshire, the targets were so strict, and every day they wanted to see if you'd sold something, and I hated it. So that was the worst job. Right.
That was probably about the same time that I was working at Brewing Dolphin, so we were both pretty miserable, weren't we? Because we were under so much pressure. But there you are.
Great night out with friends. It's difficult to remember all these things. It wasn't a night out, but I remember when I was about 18, we wrote to Rolls-Royce in Crewe and said, "Could we come and see Rolls-Royce cars being made?" And they said, "Yeah, come up on next week." And so a few of us, we went up to Crewe, stayed in the station hotel, and the following day we got showed around the Rolls-Royce for about an hour and a half, which was fantastic and very interesting. And the other thing I remember was when I played football, we won the league, and we got to go have trophy giving up in London, which was good fun. And afterwards we went to the Playboy Club where there's all bunnies around. I'll ask Mum to explain that to Eva. But I got home about 3 a.m, and that was good fun.
I can't remember. I remember going to Fairfield Halls to see Elton John, and I guess that must have been about 1972 or 3, something like that. that was just fabulous, really fabulous. And everybody was supposed to be sitting down, and people started standing up to dance, and all the security people were trying to make everybody sit down again. But yeah, they gave up in the end. That was fantastic. And Monday nights, I used to go to the Orchid Ballroom in Purley, and so did he. Isn't that funny? The Orchid Ballroom used to be an ice skating rink before it was the ballroom, and my dad used to go ice skating there when he was a teenager.
In the
Isn't
corner,
that amazing?
they had a big bar in the corner. It was circular. It used to go round and round all night. So if you sat at the bar, you go round.
It was a nice ballroom,
was.
wasn't it? Because it had trees, palm trees in there, and that circular bar was quite big, and you could just sit there and just slowly go round.
Not that we had much money for.
No, you could only afford one drink. Well, we were only about 14. I can't believe we used to get served alcohol, but it was none of the strong stuff. And that takes me on to my next question. What would you tell 20-year-old you? And I would say, if I was talking to a 20-year-old, keep away from drugs and don't drink too much.
If you ask me, what I would tell myself at 20 would be to have more confidence. I've always lacked confidence, and I think that's held me back. Also, get your eye fixed so your eyes look in the same direction.
Same way, yeah. By the way, I never touched drugs, ever. In fact, I only knew one person that was involved in drugs, and we always thought he was a bit of a loser. But that was it.
I believe we have smoked cannabis once.
Yeah, but that was when we were in our 50s or something, 40s or 50s.
Didn't like it though, did we?
No. I slept on the bathroom floor for 5 hours.
At least there were no bats flying around like there were when Natalie was there with diarrhoea.
Yeah.
Right, next one's meeting each other. Can you remember when you first met and what you thought of each other? Well, we must have met in about 1977, 1978 at work at a company called Noble Lowndes in Norfolk House in Wellesley Road, Croydon. And I don't remember our first meeting, but Mum does, because Mum worked in a typing pool. So you get this room and there would be, 20 girls probably in single desks behind each other.
All in rows.
So you'd take your typing in, and I used to hate going in there because I was very shy and embarrassed, and all the girls would look up when you walked in. I just used to look down. So although Mum saw me, I didn't see her on that occasion.
Yeah, that was funny. He walked in, put a telex in the telex basket, which is it was a great big machine, and he used to go ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. And what
it was a way of sending messages quickly.
And what it was doing was it was a tape going through, and it was punching holes in it, and then you press send and it would go to like Buenos Aires or something and send it to the other side of the world. And
Purley.
Yeah, or Purley. And the tape would go through, and the message would be typed out at the other end, which was amazing. Technology, eh?
But you got a job, well, no, you were in the same company, but sometimes you helped out in reception. We used to end up talking to each other at that point. So, places we used to go out, I mean, what we think about when we first met,
we used to
go to nightclubs.
Streatham we used to go to
bowling.
Bowling, Il Coretto.
Yeah, it was a nice Italian restaurant, and we used to be in a bowling league, 10-pin bowling every fortnight at work, and that was good fun. We were quite good amateur golfers, bowlers. So that was good fun. We went camping in Brighton, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then
went to Crystal Palace to watch athletics.
Yeah, the day that Lord Mountbatten was blown up by the IRA. It was a bit bad. So we could probably find the day that was. Because Mum loved athletics. I like the football. We saw Crystal Palace win 2-0 against Burnley in 1979. They got promoted, and there were 50,000 people in the crowd, and that's the most they ever had or will have.
Have they never beat that since?
No, because they put more seats and you can't get that many people in.
Right.
So those sort of things. Outfits, I don't know. I've never been a fashionista, but just used to try and dress smart. I was much slimmer then. I loved my full capri 2-litre GL. That was good, going out in that.
I used to go to a shop in what was the shopping centre?
Whitgift
Centre, called Santa Fe, and I used to love buying clothes from there because they were always a little bit different. And I had some corduroy trousers. They didn't have any pockets, and they were like waist high, really tight. And I always had to buy them because I was short. They were always that much too long, but it didn't matter because I used to wear like high shoes. But I used to love those trousers, and I've written down here, shoes. That's all I was interested in, was loads and loads of shoes. I had all different colours, loved them, still love shoes.
We decided that neither of us proposed to each other. Wedding day was sort of forced on us, but suddenly Elaine, mum, granddaddy, found herself pregnant, and in those days it doesn't matter now, but it wasn't very good to have a child out of wedlock, which means that the parents are not married to each other. So because you were pregnant, we decided we would get married before Natalie was born, and so Natalie was born on the 1st of July 1982, and on the 4th of June 1982 we got married at Croydon Registry Office. They only had about 8 or 10 people there. There was my mum, Peppy, your parents.
Yeah, Steve.
Steve was
Nas.
there, Dave Mason, and 1 or 2 people from work. And then afterwards, we had a party in Oswald, which was where Natalie lived when she was born. And we had a lot of people. It was good fun.
It was boiling hot that day, wasn't it? Absolutely boiling hot. And I had a navy blue dress from Mothercare with great big pink roses or something all over it, and I got a bright pink pair of court shoes with 4-inch heels.
Although most photographs had to be headshots, didn't they? So you couldn't see your tummy.
Yeah, it was huge.
So so I suppose I don't know how long after the proposal we got married. It wasn't long.
Steve was your best man.
Steve was my best man. About was it 2 weeks before we got married, I went to Spain for the day to watch football, didn't I?
Yeah.
Worried that you were going to have the baby.
Went off with Pepe.
Yeah. So it wasn't a very formal wedding. We'd like to have done it in a different way. We often talk about having a blessing now, don't we? But
not now. We used to quite a lot.
I still think about
We
it.
always used to say, "Oh, when it's our 10-year anniversary, we do it," and then it was like when it's our 20-year, it's just gone on and on.
And when we first moved in together, I mean that's a slightly difficult question, but really the first time was we rented a house in Caterham in Hairstone Valley Road, a flat, sorry, yes. And that was very exciting being together because we wanted to be together, but we did childish things like had a scale electric in the lounge. We went on day trips to France. We went to a pub up the road, and
what was that pub up the road?
Harrow, I think it was called. And then you had a Mini which broke down the clutch went, and I changed the clutch. Do you remember? Down the front, it was on, and I was so pleased that it had worked. I drove up the ramp at the side of the flat, round to the garages at the back, and then suddenly remembered that I hadn't reconnected the brakes. And I pulled the handbrake on and skidded into the wall.
And I heard it, and I thought, someone's hit the wall at the back of the flats.
Fortunately, there wasn't much damage done to the wall or to the car. So there we are. That was our.
So that was 13 Richmond House.
Funny, I was born at
Valley
13 Richmond Road.
Were you?
In Ealing, yeah. So there you go. That's section 2. So I hope that was of interest. And we should try and download it, and we'll get on to section 3 next time. See you Thursday.
Bye.